Hey guys, thanks for being here. Today is the third monthly drink club with John Aspie and myself, where we talk about tech and entrepreneurship and business. And this episode, we talk about Uber acquiring Postmates. This is huge and it's super coronavirus related. Pricing strategy is super important in marketing and sales. Many people don't think about it, so we really go down into this hole. And sales channels, it doesn't matter what you sell, if you're in software or if you're in consumer goods, you have to understand your sales channels, mainly today with COVID and online and mobile. This is really a great episode, tons of information. It's a little bit on the long side, and that's after I even edit tons of stuff out. So bang on the like, bang on subscribe, and let's rock and roll. I don't know if you saw my LinkedIn comment on your podcast.
I'm trying to, I think I did, but I don't remember it now.
But yeah, that's something that, I wrote about because I was shocked. So the thing is that you say, and you said it on your podcast and you said it in our podcast a few weeks ago, that a crisis is always a catalyst of change and processes that are already happening. It just makes them faster or get there faster or grow them. And one of the things is home delivery. What do you say about Uber buying Postmates for $2.6 billion?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. Because I did see your comment, by the way. I was just I was probably sitting on a beach.
By the way,
to reply.
You're not drinking? I'm drinking summer. I made myself summer cocktail. Oh, nice. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nothing fancy. It's a Weller weeded bourbon. We didn't talk about the drinks that we had last time, but I didn't want to follow Rachel's lead since
I was like,
so I am drinking the Weller here.
Nice.
The Uber Postmates acquisition, is interesting to me on a couple of different dimensions. I personally use DoorDash. I've tried both Uber Eats and I've tried Postmates, and my experience has been that DoorDash seems to be a more effective service in terms of lost orders. But what I have noticed is that in some cities, I can't use DoorDash because the selection is just very small.
And there are other apps as well, like Caviar and others.
Yep.
There's a huge surge, like you say, with home food delivery. I think this 2.6 billion is a little bit too much. It's a little bit of a bubbly thing.
And I didn't see the terms. Is that mostly cash or is that Uber stock or what?
I think stocks.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because to me, if what they're saying is, hey, this gives us more restaurants, we've already built the ground. Like if Postmates has coverage in certain cities and Uber Eats doesn't, and they can kind of harmonize the two, then I think it could be very, very compelling reason to go back to the platform. I don't see how Postmates and Uber Eats are going to be integrated so well that they're going to have a better user experience than DoorDash. I don't know about you, but my experience has been that much less mistakes with DoorDash, much more predictable. So,
but what do you think about this huge price tag? Don't you think it's just a little bit over the top just because, we're in COVID? And I mean, this whole novelty aspect of it, 6 months from now, it will be more normal. It will be, I'm not an example. I don't like home food delivery, never have, never will. But people, that's what they do.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. You probably remember when Facebook bought Instagram for $750 million. Everybody thought it was a crazy price. But in retrospect, that's now about $150 billion business for them. So that's the real question, I think. Is that too much to pay or not? We'll be able to answer that in 6 months or a year.
Let's remember, on the other hand, Uber's IPO. and
Yeah.
how much Uber thought that they will be worth and
Yeah.
what happened that day and
Yeah.
since.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's no doubt. And their core, the more interesting question to me is I'd like to see, I think this shows you that in a COVID world, the food delivery side of the business, they're glad they invested in Uber Eats, because I'm guessing that the Uber business has just been decimated because people aren't going out and getting in cars. I've noticed wait times of 10 to 15 minutes when I've used Uber or Lyft lately, where it used to be 2 or 3 minutes, and that tells me that that business is probably
Here
sucking
in
in.
LA, it's even worse lately. You can see them all of a sudden they stop. All of a sudden, so 6 minutes, 13 minutes, 15 minutes, and you see that it stops next to a Chipotle.
Yeah. Look, I think when you see consolidation in any industry and you see these big numbers, it's usually a sign of a couple of things. It might be a sign that there's a big opportunity, which you can see that in the COVID world, that probably is a big opportunity. But it's also sometimes a sign that we've got too many companies out here and we're destroying one another, and we need less competition, and we'll bid the price up because it's worth it to us, because we think this is a winner takes all, or maybe you see two or three really big vendors coming out at the end, which is what a lot of businesses end up looking like. You end up seeing two or three major players
Yeah,
dominating certain industries, and this feels like that kind of industry to me.
definitely. I think that, as important as it is these days to be on Postmates and this whole delivery and curbside pickup and all that, I think that from a marketing and branding point of view, whoever, like restaurants, dispensaries, whoever is like 7-Eleven, they all need to have their own apps or their own websites, regardless if they are on Postmates, Uber Eats, or DoorDash, because it's easier and smarter from a branding and marketing point of view. You have more control, you have more one-on-one connection with your audience. It's easier for you acquisition wise and retention wise, because you can send them emails, you can send them texts, you can create specific promos, you can learn so much about them, and you cannot do that when you have an aggregator. You miss a lot where all your delivery and pickups are set by an aggregator, an outside aggregator. Because let's say I want to go to a restaurant X and they don't have a website, so I need to go to Postmates or something like that. And once I go there, you will probably lose me because I will see other options, other sponsored ads. And even if I went there because I wanted your food, you will probably lose me and someone else will get my money.
Yeah,
So
that's a really interesting point, Dino. You give up some of that customer connection. I think it's similar to what Apple has done with the App Store. Very, very different, for very different reasons, but it's the same idea.
yeah,
If I sell an app through the App Store, it's a two-edged sword. It's a fantastic distribution channel, hundreds of millions of customers coming on there, finding your product. That Apple lets you put the type of branding that you want around it, but at the end of the day, it's an Apple customer, not your customer, and they charge a tax on it. And I think that's something that I think smart branding people in the industry will demand more from these aggregator platforms. I would like to see where the aggregators went more of an API approach, which would be to say, you know what, rather than trying to control the customer experience and the customer acquisition and everything else, I'm going to give the ability, just an API that any restaurant can plug into and any brand can plug into. And I'm going to let them spend the money on marketing. I'm going to let them spend the money on customer acquisition. I'm just going to be a fulfillment piece. And I think
yeah,
that could be a much more scalable business, frankly, in the long run. I did a project for Papa John's Pizza back in 2015, and I was advising them. I did some of the work myself, and I was advising them on creating an API. They were very keen to open up an API for developers that wanted to integrate pizza delivery into
Super
whatever.
smart.
Yeah, yeah, it was brilliant. And I don't know if they ever went anywhere, or if that was just one of their moonshot ideas, but I thought that was brilliant. I wish more companies would go that route. But I do think a restaurant of Papa John size can probably be their own aggregator. They've got the demand, they've got the stores. I do think there's a role for aggregators. I just wish that maybe
Of
they would
course,
be a little bit more flexible in their business model.
I think that you need to do both.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. You can't put all your eggs in someone else's basket. Put a few eggs in that basket and a few in your basket. You can do it for, not a lot of money, really not a lot of money, and have your own controlled environment and have postmates and everything else. And it doesn't matter what you sell, you can just do it.
I agree. I think you're right. I think if I were advising these companies, I would say, look, you need to look at the food delivery services as a channel, and you need to have multiple sales channels. And we think about that in our businesses at Defiance. We invest in the channel. We go in and invest in relationships with the software vendors like Amazon and Red Hat, and Pyramid Analytics is another one. We want them to sell our services, right? We want them to sell our products that run on their platforms, but we're not going to sit back and rely on that. We're building our own outside sales team. We're building our own inside sales team. We're building our own VAR business that can go out and sell our products and services and other people's. And I think you need an all of the above approach there. But the good news is, if you do it correctly, what you do to support one direct channel also supports your indirect channels. And I think that that's the way I would be advising restaurant businesses is, look, you need to have an e-commerce channel, your own, that you own. It's not hard. There's software that can do this for you, and it's cheap and easy to implement. You need to invest in pick a couple key delivery services, build your own delivery service. If you think you can drive enough business there, why not have both? Build your own delivery service that can use Uber Eats if you need to. It's I would advise any business to think about what are all the sales channels, but I think you need to be thinking direct and indirect. And again, to me, indirect is exactly what Postmates or Uber Eats represents.
Yeah, it's all about the channels. I mean, I think that not enough people understand that this situation that we're in, it's going to continue. It's going to affect the way that we live, conduct business, manage our family life, our leisure time, where are we going. As a restaurateur, for instance, and I've been in the service industry for many years. I love this business. It's not only that, it's a laundromat, whatever it is. Now, if you still don't think that marketing is more important than your product, now is the time to understand that that's it. You have to think marketing. You have to think to bring someone who knows marketing. Like you said, channels, sales channels. For us, it's like basic. Okay, what are your channels?
Yeah.
I don't know. What is it? So now it's time to go on YouTube and start check about marketing. At least that's the first thing that you need to do.
I think channel strategy is an underappreciated part of marketing. Obviously, for different industries, it has different importance. Coming up from 20 years in the software industry, channel is one of the first things that you learn about, because we all know about we all know about Microsoft. We all know about Intel. Nobody buys Intel for Intel's sake. It's all channel partners, right?
I buy Intel just because if it's not Intel, I'm not buying.
Well, and that's where they were brilliant, right? They got the consumer pulling through the brand and demanding Intel inside. So that campaign to me was one of the most impressive enterprise campaigns I've ever seen, because at the end of the day, if you had asked a salesperson before that Intel Inside marketing campaign, how are you going to grow sales at Intel? I guarantee you they would have said, I'm going to spend time with Dell. I'm going to spend time with Gateway. I'm going to spend time with Lenovo. All of these other vendors, they were the ones making the decision to pull Intel in. And so you're in an inherently indirect sales channel. And even Microsoft, right? At one point, the most valuable company in the world, you don't really buy Windows. You buy a computer that has Windows. I think why Microsoft has been able to reverse their fortunes under Nadella, the new CEO. I think he gets the channel. I think he gets that, hey, we need to leverage our channel partners to sell Azure to these big organizations, and we may not get the startup mind share that an Amazon or a GCP gets, but we sure as hell can sell to these businesses because we've got these channel relationships. Because again, they've always had to sell that way. So for me, I always think about channel as one of the first parts of a business development and marketing strategy, just because it's so core to the way you run software businesses. I think channels are an underrated part of marketing. I think people pay a lot of attention to branding, and for good reason. You got to have a good brand and you got to invest in the brand. But people think more about branding. I think they don't think as much about channels as a marketing function. I also think that pricing is one of the fundamentals of marketing that people really don't think about when they're, think about as part of that marketing mix. And I think that pricing is in some sense an accounting decision. It's in some sense a sales decision, but ultimately it's a big part of marketing because it informs a lot of those other parts of your overall marketing strategy, right? Like, how am I going to message this? Well, am I going to pursue a premium pricing model, or am I going to pursue 10% better pricing than my competitors and just admit that I'm a commodity? I think that they're tied in with one another, and I'd like to see in more organizations marketing have a voice at the table of, let's figure out what our pricing strategy is.
I can second that, because I know from experience, because I've seen it in different businesses. They don't understand the whole, what's a pricing strategy, and the fact that pricing is strategy. They think about it from an income and profits point of view, and that's it. Most businesses never heard about value pricing.
I had on my podcast a guy named Chris Elmore, who is one of the first employees at Avid Exchange. They're a $2 billion unicorn here in Charlotte. They're real powerful in the payment processing space, but he teaches classes on entrepreneurship, and he really talks a lot about value-based pricing. And what he likes to do is he likes to say, I want to capture 10% of the improvement in your business. So if I can save you $500,000, I make $50,000. If I only save you $400,000, I make $40,000. And I pointed out to him on the interview, I was like, that's great that you think of the 10%, because that's consistent with the idea of a 10x improvement, right? 10% of the value coming to me means that I'm improving your business 10 times what I'm costing you.
Right.
And I think if people can move to a value-based pricing mindset, it's very powerful, and it simplifies your selling. It also, I think the other side of pricing is you got to get, and again, this is for enterprise software, but I think it applies to almost any business. If you can create recurring, predictable streams of revenue, I'll take that every day over higher gross margins. If I can predict and say, I've got a 3-year contract and then I'm going to go renew it after 3 years. And that there's a reason that businesses that have the bulk of their revenue that way get multiples that are 3 or 4 times higher than the multiples that businesses that have to earn your business it's easier
to forecast.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's on Netflix, there's a documentary right now about drugs. And one of the first things that they say, and it's super important, let's check the economics of it, because it's all about economics.
Mm-hmm.
And
are these legal or illegal drugs?
Illegal.
They're illegal.
Cocaine,
okay.
Heroin, all of
got
that.
It. Yeah.
So cocaine has the same price since the 80s.
Okay.
That's crazy. Again, cocaine, this crazy, everybody wants that, everybody doing that, the same price since the 80s per gram.
Okay.
The second thing that has kind of the same pricing are computer games. It's pretty much the same kind of pricing.
I'm thinking about I bought my kids a GTA 5 game and an Uncharted game, and it's the same.
How much
price
was it?
I paid, $45-$50. Same thing I paid 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Between 45 to $60. That's what a video game cost since the 80s.
Yeah.
It's easier to forecast and understand how much money you're going to make, how much money you need to invest. It's about buying the next game. It's not about, okay, I'm going to charge $200 and because it's such a great game and I want everybody to want it. Yeah, but that's it. Who knows if that will work? Well, dude, it was awesome as usual.
Fun as always, Dino. I'm enjoying these. I look forward to doing these every month. I was glad when you emailed me and said, "Hey, we need to do the next one." Thank you.